Every morning, your day begins with a sound you probably hate, a sound you can't escape. But what if I told you this annoying little device has a dark, hidden history that goes back thousands of years? Today, we're uncovering the secret past of something you use every single day, the alarm clock. Before smartphones, before electricity, before even mechanical gears, people still needed to wake up on time. But the methods they used were far stranger than you could possibly imagine. The story begins with something simple, something universal, something ancient. The sun. For millions of years, sunlight was our only alarm clock. When it rose, we worked. When it set, we stopped. But as civilizations grew, people needed more control, more precision, more power over time. And that's where the story gets interesting. Let's travel back to ancient Greece. Meet Plato, the famous philosopher. He wasn't just thinking about life, the universe, and everything. He was also a master inventor. He created what might be the world's first ever alarm clock. It wasn't electric and it didn't buzz. It was a massive water clock called a clepsydra. Water would drip from one vessel to another, and as the second vessel filled, it would force air out through a tube, creating a loud whistling sound. Imagine waking up to the piercing shriek of a giant water kettle. Plato used it to wake his students for early morning lectures. I guess hitting snooze wasn't an option back then. But what if you didn't have access to Plato's genius invention? For centuries, most people relied on something far more biological, roosters. They were the original organic alarm clocks. But roosters aren't exactly reliable. They crow when they feel like it, not when you have an important meeting. So people got creative. In some parts of Europe, town criers would walk the streets at dawn, shouting the time. Others relied on the church bells, which chimed at specific hours for prayer. It was a communal way of keeping time, a shared responsibility. But it still wasn't personal. Then came the Industrial Revolution. Factories needed workers to be on time every time. Tardiness cost money. This demand sparked a wave of innovation. Suddenly, personal alarm clocks became a necessity, not a luxury. In 1787, an American inventor named Levi Hitchens created a personal alarm clock for one person only, himself. He was a notoriously heavy sleeper and needed to wake up at 4 a.m. every day without fail. His device was a simple pine box with gears from a brass clock. It would ring a bell at that one specific time. The catch? He couldn't change it. It was permanently set to 4 a.m. Talk about commitment. It was NT until 1876 that a man named Seth Thomas patented the first mechanical wind-up alarm clock that could be set to any time. This was a game changer. For the first time in history, anyone could buy a small, affordable device to control their own schedule. These clocks became a symbol of modern life, of discipline, and of industrial progress. But there was still a problem. What if you were a really, really deep sleeper? Or what if multiple people in a household needed to wake up at different times? Enter the knocker-upper. Yes, you heard that right. In Britain and Ireland, during the 19th and early 20th centuries, you could hire a professional to wake you up. These knocker-uppers would walk from house to house, tapping on windows with a long stick. For windows on higher floors, they used even longer poles or even pea shooters to shoot dried peas at the glass. They wouldn't leave until they were sure you were awake. It was a real profession, a human alarm clock service. Can you imagine that being a job today? From Plato's water whistle to the knocker-upper's long stick, the journey to our modern alarm clock is filled with fascinating, bizarre, and brilliant ideas. We've gone from the sun and roosters to complex mechanical gears and eventually to the gentle chimes of our smartphones. Each buzz, each ring, each annoying beep is the result of thousands of years of human ingenuity, all driven by a single timeless need to not be late. So the next time you slam your hand down on your phone to silence that morning alarm, take a moment. You're not just stopping a sound. You're participating in a ritual that connects you to ancient philosophers, factory workers, and even professional pea shooters. It's a strange and wonderful history, hidden in plain sight right on your nightstand. Have you ever hit the snooze button and wished your alarm clock would just disappear? Well, be careful what you wish for, because the way people used to wake up is the stuff of nightmares. Long before your phone gently chirped you awake, ancient civilizations had some truly wild methods to get out of bed. Let's travel back to ancient Greece. Forget digital displays and soothing nature sounds. The very first mechanical alarm clock wasn't even a clock. It was a contraption invented by the brilliant philosopher Plato, but it was anything but peaceful. Imagine a complex water machine slowly, silently filling up throughout the night. You're deep in a dream, and then suddenly, whoosh! A high-pitched whistle, like a screaming kettle, jolts you from your sleep. It was loud, it was chaotic, and because it relied on a steady water flow, it was completely unpredictable. Some mornings it might go off at dawn, other times, who knows? Talk about a stressful way to start your day. But if you think that's strange, things get even weirder as we move into industrial Europe. For centuries, clocks were luxury items reserved for the ultra-wealthy. So what do regular working-class people do? They couldn't just hope the rooster was feeling punctual. They hired actual humans to wake them up. Yes, you heard that right. An entire profession was born out of the need to get people to their factory jobs on time. They were called knocker-uppers, and their job was exactly what it sounds like. Every morning, before the sun even rose, these dedicated individuals would walk the dark, quiet streets with one mission: wake everyone up. Their primary tool was a long, thin stick, sometimes made of bamboo, which they used to tap, or more like bang, on people's bedroom windows. They wouldn't leave until they saw a light on or got a sign that you were actually awake. No snooze button there. And the methods got surprisingly creative. Some knocker-uppers, especially if they needed to reach higher floors, used pea shooters. They would stand on the street below and expertly shoot a volley of dried peas at your window pane. Imagine being woken up by a relentless tick-tick-tack of peas against your glass. It was effective, but probably incredibly annoying. It's a bit like having a tiny, persistent woodpecker outside your window that you paid to be there. This was a legitimate, respected job that existed for well over 100 years. Well, into the 20th century in some parts of England. As time went on, people wanted a more personal in-home solution. This led to the invention of the candle alarm clock. On the surface, it sounds quite serene. You take a candle and mark it with hours. Then you de-stick heavy metal pins or nails into the wax at the time you wanted to wake up. The candle was placed on a metal tray. As the flame slowly burned down, the wax would melt, and when it reached your desired time, the pin would fall out and hit the metal tray with a loud clang. A simple, elegant, and seemingly peaceful solution, but there was a huge, fiery catch. What happens if the candle burns a little too fast? Or if a breeze knocks it over while you're sleeping? You guessed it, fire. These candle alarms were a notorious fire hazard. Instead of being woken by a gentle clang, you might be woken by your curtains bursting into flames. It was a high-stakes gamble every single night. Do I get to work on time, or does my house burn down? It's no wonder people were desperate for a safer alternative. From Plato's water whistle to human pea shooters and flammable candles, the journey to your modern alarm clock was anything but boring. It makes you appreciate that little digital screen on your nightstand just a little bit more, doesn't it? So next time you groan when your alarm goes off, just remember, at least it's not shooting peas at you. Ever wondered how we all got so obsessed with time? It all starts here. In 1876, the world's first widely available mechanical alarm clock was created. Before this, waking up on time was a tricky business. People relied on everything from the sun to professional knocker-uppers who would tap on their windows with long sticks. But this new invention changed everything. It was loud. It was ugly. It was made of metal. And it was absolutely impossible to ignore. Imagine a rusty metal box ringing violently on your nightstand, its bells shaking with a furious clatter. It wasn't elegant, but it was effective. Suddenly, workers had a reliable way to wake up for their shifts. Factories, hungry for punctuality, demanded it. And society, whether it was ready or not, began to adapt to a new rhythm, a mechanical heartbeat that ticked away the seconds of every day. Historic photos from this era tell a story of massive change. You see workers waking at the crack of dawn, their new metal companions sitting beside their beds. You see people rushing through busy, soot-covered industrial streets, all moving to the same beat. The alarm clock wasn't just a gadget, it was the engine of the Industrial Revolution, synchronizing millions of lives into a single productive force. But this is where the story turns dark. While the alarm clock powered progress, it came at a hidden cost. Think about it. What was once a tool for convenience quickly became a symbol of something much more sinister. As factories grew, so did the need for control, discipline, and absolute obedience. This simple device was the perfect enforcer. Black and white photos from the time show stark factory rules posted on walls, demanding punctuality above all else. You see tired faces, rows of workers punching time cards, their lives measured not in moments, but in minutes. The clock was no longer just helping them wake up. It was chaining them to a schedule. This new reality forced millions into strict routines they never chose. Imagine living in cramped worker housing, beds lined up in rows, with only a sliver of dim light filtering through old windows. Your entire existence, from the moment you woke to the moment you collapsed into bed, was dictated by the clock. Life was no longer ruled by the natural cycles of sunrise and sunset. It was ruled by the relentless ticking hands of the clock. In old industrial towns, clock towers loomed over the skyline like silent guards, a constant reminder of who was really in charge. The gears turned, not just inside the clocks, but inside society itself, creating a new world built on precision and control. This wasn't just about getting to work on time. It was a fundamental shift in our relationship with time itself. The alarm clock sliced our sleep into a commodity, something to be managed and optimized for productivity. Sleep deprivation became a silent epidemic among the working class. The natural human need for rest was seen as an inconvenience, an obstacle to be overcome with the help of this jarring, mechanical scream. Workers were exhausted, but the factories demanded more. The clock became a tool to extract every last drop of labor, pushing human bodies to their limits. It was the birth of hustle culture long before the term ever existed. But something interesting happened. We fought back. Not with protests in the streets, but in a much more personal way. We invented the snooze button. Patented in the 1950s, the snooze button was a small act of rebellion. It was a way to reclaim a few precious minutes of our own time, a brief defiance against the tyranny of the schedule. Think about that moment. The alarm blares, and for a split second, you have a choice. You can surrender to the day, or you can press that button and steal back a moment of peace. It's a tiny victory, but it's our victory. Today, our alarms are on our phones. They play gentle melodies instead of ringing harsh bells. We can customize them, schedule them, and even have them wake us up with the simulated light of a sunrise. We've tried to domesticate the alarm clock to make it a friendlier part of our lives, but its legacy remains. That tension between our natural rhythms and the demands of a scheduled world is still very much alive. Every time you set an alarm, you're participating in this century-old story. So the next time your alarm goes off, just take a second to think about it. Are you in control of the clock, or is the clock in control of you? By the 1900s, electricity changed everything. For centuries, the world had lived by the rhythm of the sun, but now power plants were humming. City streets were lighting up at dusk, and old tungsten bulbs flickered to life. Early household wiring, snaking through walls, brought this new magic into our homes. And with it, the alarm clock became cheaper, smaller, and louder. Gone were the days of bulky, expensive mechanical alarms. Now, you could find sleek electric models in catalogs for as little as $1.25. With their bakelite knobs, thick cords, and mechanical bells that struck with a startling new urgency, they were a modern marvel. But electricity brought an even bigger shift, the 24-hour schedule. Neon signs began to glow through the night, a beacon for a world that no longer slept. Night shift workers streamed into steel mills, punching time cards at midnight as trains rattled by under the glare of electric lamps. Society was fundamentally rewired. Factories ran around the clock. Hospitals became nonstop operations with nurses in crisp white uniforms running 24/7 wards. Students found themselves in classrooms earlier than ever, rubbing sleep from their eyes. And for city workers checking clocks on cold, dark mornings, the alarm clock had become the undisputed master of time. It was the device that dictated the pulse of this new, electrified world, its ticking hands a constant reminder of the schedule we now had to keep. Then, in the late 20th century, digital alarms appeared. Suddenly, our bedside tables were lit by the eerie red glow of LED digits. These new timepieces, showcased in electronics stores with their wood-paneled walls, were a symbol of the future. They were precise down to the second. No gears, no springs, no ticking, just silent numbers glowing in the dark. The mechanical whirring of the past was replaced by a clean digital hum. And with this new technology came a feature that would change our mornings forever, the snooze button. That tempting button, often a bright, oversized plastic square, promised just a few more minutes of rest. But scientists would later discover a cruel irony. Hitting snooze actually confuses your brain, leaving you feeling even more tired. Each tap traps you in a cycle of fragmented sleep, making it harder, not easier, to wake up. Today, your alarm clock isn't a clock at all. It's your phone. We've watched it evolve from flip phones to early smartphones, and now to the powerful touchscreens we carry everywhere. Brands like Apple, Nokia, and Samsung put a supercomputer on our nightstands. This device doesn't just wake you up. It watches you. It tracks your sleep cycles, predicts your patterns, and analyzes your every toss and turn. It can wake you up gently with calming sunrise animations and soft chimes, or it can jolt you awake with a brutal, vibrating alarm that shakes your entire bed. The alarm is no longer a stationary object tethered to a wall. You carry it with you everywhere you go, a constant presence in your pocket. From pocket watches to mechanical alarms, electric clocks to digital ones, the evolution has led us here. And for the first time in history, the vast majority of people don't wake up to the sun. They wake up to a sound from a device they hold in their hand, summoned from sleep by a tiny machine that knows them better than they know themselves. Farmers rose with the rooster's crow, and communities went to sleep when the sun went down. Time was fluid, a gentle rhythm guided by nature. Sure, ancient civilizations had clever ways to mark time-water clocks, sundials, even incense sticks that burned at a steady rate. Plato was said to have invented a water clock that whistled when it was full, possibly the world's first alarm. Suddenly, nature's clock wasn't good enough. Factories needed hundreds of workers to start their shifts at the exact same time, long before the sun even thought about rising. For the first time, an ordinary person could own a device that commanded their morning. It was a personal drill sergeant sitting right on their nightstand. That little device tells a story of societal transformation, of economic ambition, and of our relentless quest to conquer and organize our own existence. So tomorrow morning, when your alarm rings, take a moment, remember this story. You're not just hearing a sound. You're hearing thousands of years of human history echoing through time. You're hearing the bells of medieval monasteries, the whistles of industrial factories, and the digital pulse of our hyper-connected world, all converging in that one moment.